well. There is no system of supervised visitation, really, which is, I think, what would happen in a Canadian court, where there would be, you would have access, but there would be somebody watching over it. That is too much management for a Japanese family court to take on. The sad thing about all of these is there's this incredible deference to the wishes of the child, which is, if you can get the child to say, I don't want to see dad, or I don't want to see mom, or you submit evidence of, say, this is from a real case, a video of the children saying, mommy is not our mommy anymore, grandma is our real mommy. That works. We respect the wishes of the child. It's just an incredible abandonment of responsibility on the part of adults, of all of the adults involved in the system, because adults, are part of their job is to make children do things they don't want to do, and this is certainly true in Japan. As in anywhere else, children are having to do things that they don't want to do, but suddenly when it comes to seeing your own father or seeing your own mother, then suddenly what you want is the most important thing in the world, because that takes the responsibility out of everybody else's hands. Because family courts can't remedy problems they create, this creates a sort of downward spiral dynamic of custody and access litigation in Japan. What I mean is, because it's very difficult to get your child back through the court system, not just if you're a foreign parent, but even if you're a Japanese parent, it explains why courts won't allow visitation if both parties are agreed to it, because, well, if the visitation turns into an opportunity to change the possession of the child, then it's the court's fault. So the courts don't want to award it if the other parent one of the parents is opposed to it. The lawyers certainly don't want to recommend it, because they actually may be committing malpractice if they say, yeah, let your former husband or former wife see the child, and the child disappears, then it's your fault. So I think what happens in a lot of cases is that you have a marriage go bad, and you have a father who is probably predisposed to allow the mother to have custody, and you have a mother who is probably predisposed to allow the child to see the father, and then the lawyers get involved, and the mother's lawyer says, well, don't let the father see, don't let the father near the kids until everything's decided, because if he takes them away, you won't be able to get them back. And the father is going through this mediation and getting more and more frustrated because he's not seeing his child during the course of this mediation, and during the course of this, his lawyer may say, well, the only way you're going to be sure of having a relationship with your child is if you go and abduct the child. And then it becomes sort of this self-fulfilling negative downward spiral that takes place within the confines of a court system, but there really is no sort of law or effective remedies, because the courts don't have a lot of power to change reality. But as I said, my assumption is that the people working in the system are good people, and they're well-meaning people, but they probably want to go home at the end of the day and think, I did a good thing, what I'm doing is good, I'm helping people, and I think it's just natural human nature anywhere to both think or want to think that what you're doing is good and beneficial, but also to adjust that to the limitations of what you actually can do, which in the case of family courts in these very sad situations is not very much a lot of the time. Next slide, please. So, it is usually in the best interests of the court bureaucracy, and the court is a bureaucracy in a way that courts are not in Canada. That the status quo of the child be in the best interests of the child, even if that requires one parent to effectively disappear. not necessarily insofar as paying child support goes, but just in terms of being a source of ongoing dispute resolution requirements for the court. It's probably more convenient that just one person go away, and I think that is a decision that a lot of people have to make. I have certainly talked to a number of parents, both Japanese and foreign, who have to deal with that very difficult decision. Should I just give up and start over again? It's just a tragic decision that some people are put in the position of making. So because this result is, I think, in the best interest of the court system, you almost never hear about parental alienation syndrome in Japan as being either a potential form of abuse or a psychological problem that both the alienated parent and the child to whom who is subject to it will have to deal with for the rest of their life. I think it actually is sort of convenient to the court system because it helps them achieve these institutional goals by having one person just go away. I think that's this being the case. I'm a little skeptical about whether Japan signing the Hague Convention will make a difference. I think that there's a definite reason to continue to hope that it will, simply as an expression of agreement with the principles in the Hague Convention, which are that a child's interests should be decided in the jurisdiction where the child has been residing. I think there are a number of positives that signing the Hague Convention could bring about. I will go into the details of the convention, but one of them is that, well, the government actually has to help you locate your child if it has been abducted to a Hague Convention country. And there are fairly clear provisions on visitation in the Hague Convention, and I think it will make it more feasible simply by bringing a text that says visitation into the mix, at least in the international cases. I think there are actually some negatives in that it will remove some of the red flags that currently exist to judges in countries like Canada and elsewhere, where they are considering requests by a parent to take a child to a non-Hague country for visitation or for some other reason. Non-Hague status is usually a red flag for judges in these cases. I personally think that signing the Hague Convention, the first result will actually be harder for foreigners to leave Japan with their children, because obviously the Japanese government, their job is to look after their citizens. So the first thing that they would want to stop is abduction away from Japan rather than to Japan. So that might be one unexpected result if Japan does sign the Hague Convention. Possible results are that actually children are returned through the Hague mechanisms. Another possible result is that they are not. The Hague Convention provides a number of exceptions when children do not have to be returned to the jurisdiction of residence. One of these exceptions is that, one exception is because the child doesn't want to, and another exception is because the child would be subject to severe psychological trauma by being returned. In cases in Canada, I think this has been interpreted as, well, if you're sending them back to a war zone, that's not the best thing. But since Japan already has these very extensive list of excuses for not granting visitation because it can be so supposedly traumatic to the child, it would be interesting to see if, interesting academically, I hope it doesn't happen, but there's certainly a possibility that a fairly low bar for finding that this psychological damage exception applies to Hague Convention cases may also result. I think that's the last slide.